What is going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're taking a look at an open Ultra League team, and these battles have been submitted by a friend of the channel, DOOMNukem. Now, this team seems really interesting to me because they're running Steelix on the safe swap. Steelix has access to Dragon Tail, and Dragon Tail got a buff a couple of seasons ago now to damage and to energy, which makes it a much more viable move and actually serves a really nice role on Steelix in the Ultra League, and it's kind of neglected. You don't see that many people talking about it and utilising it, but it does have good play, especially in open Ultra League. Now, for this team, they are running Clefable on the lead with Steelix on the safe swap and Umbreon in the back. I think this team could probably work in almost any orientation that you wanted, and also this team, well, Umbreon has to be XL, it has to be level 50, you want a Hundo, powered up as much as you can because it doesn't hit 2500 at level 50 or 51, in this Umbreon's case at level 50. Steelix and Clefable get close at level 40 if they are Hundos, and DOOMNukem has said that these are actually 100% IV, Clefable and Steelix, so these can be much bulkier, which you will get more use out of if you do build those, but obviously Onyx XL Candy and Clefairy XL Candy might not be the easiest to farm, especially compared to Eevee. With that said and done, consider liking and subscribing, and let's look at these battles. First up, they pull an amazing lead. Giratina lead is absolutely fantastic for this line, and actually it's great to see in general because Giratina loses to every Pokemon on this team. Dragon Tail Steelix does very well against Giratina. It beats it, even if they're running Shadow Claw rather than Dragon Breath. Obviously, if it's running Dragon Breath, you're in a better position with Steelix, but Steelix does win in both cases, having that crunch and that Dragon Tail damage that does chip away pretty fast. Umbreon and Clefable do very well against Giratina. This opponent swapped out to an Alolan Muck, and they're bringing in the Steelix, which is a very good answer to Alolan Muck as well. It's resisting I think it's triple resisting the poison moves. It's the only thing they can do for actual damage is landing Dark Pulses, but you can definitely survive one, so there isn't much shield pressure here unless they commit shields first, and they're able to farm down, so they've got switch advantage. The Giratina comes in, and you're going to see that this Steelix is going to do some work, I reckon, here. They're going to go for the crunch, they're going to do a reasonable chunk of damage. They don't get the defense drop, but that Dragon Tail is chunking away. They're going to get to another one. The Giratina's not going to get the farm down, and this is going to get them even lower. They're not inclined to shield because they know that the Clefable is going to be coming back in and shutting this thing down, although they could come in with Umbreon and get ahead on energy, but they've got an Empoleon in the back and they can get Umbreon against this thing, and this is a pretty done match. I think if Empoleon commits 2 shields, it can do a little bit better against Umbreon just because the waterfall damage really starts to add up, but in the 1 shield apiece, this Umbreon's going to be able to put some work in and at least get the Empoleon down into Charm down range, and that's going to be GG for this game. There's not really much they can do here because even if the Clefable takes a beating from the Giratina, from the Empoleon, sorry, it's going to have enough health to deal with the Giratina anyway. It only has a little bit of health, maybe 1 or 2 charms at the most to finish that off. So this is pretty much a done game. The opponent's staying in though. They're going to swap out to Giratina. Clefable's going to come in, absorb this energy, charm down, and the Empoleon's not going to be able to deal with it at this point. The Clefable's got far too much health. The opponent is going to surrender, and that's a good game between those two there. It really is fantastic for this team to see Giratina because it really does have nowhere to go, and if they swap out to something that still loses to Clefable, you can just leave Clefable in and either Steelix or Umbreon can deal with Giratina later. Now this opponent is using an invisible Pokemon, but looking from the text on screen and the typings in the top corner, I'm guessing they're running Articuno, and this is a pretty neutral matchup, I would say, for Clefable. They're going to shield up the Meteor Mash, which would annihilate Articuno if it had more health. That steel move is very strong and very super effective, but they're actually going to let Clefable go down here, and they're going to bring in Steelix and start getting ahead on energy. I like this play because Steelix with energy can threaten most things. Even if they've got something like a Swampert in the back, that Earthquake is going to hit like a truck. Now they do get an Icy Wind debuff off, so are they going to swap out? Yeah, they're going to go for the swap out and store that energy and make more use of it in the end game, because if this Onyx Steelix ends up lined up with the Swampert in the end, you want the Earthquake to do maximum damage, but actually the Swampert's choosing to stay in against the Umbreon, and this is quite interesting. So either they have another answer to Steelix in the back, or whatever they've got in the back is very scared of Umbreon, and either way that's looking good for us, because if we can keep Swampert away from Steelix, that's absolutely fantastic for us. Now Doom does have a shield advantage still at this point, and I would say, oh, they're going to catch the foul play on Cresselia. That's a pretty good play, because that, well, I think the Swampert's still in earthquake range at this point, but they're going to swap to Steelix and start throwing crunches and start grinding this thing down. It makes more sense to preserve the Umbreon. Umbreon does have a good matchup against Cresselia. This is a Confusion Cresselia, which is pretty spicy. Most Cresselias will run Psycho Cut in the Ultra League, but it's still not particularly threatening. I think you might as well let the Steelix go. It's just a Moonblast. It's not going to be enough to take them out. And are they going to go for aggressive foul down the iron? They get it. They've got the Earthquake. Swampert's got energy. Are they going to shield up and throw the Earthquake? Yeah, we want to see it. We want to see if this is going to do enough to take out the Swampert. Steelix is a Swampert counter confirmed. It's coming through. Is it going to KO? It does. Bang! Absolutely annihilates the Swampert, and that's going to be another GG. You're going to have to excuse if I talk about some of these matches as if they're my own. I am not used to talking about other people's gameplay. I'm very used to just talking about my own for you guys and talking about it from that perspective. Okay, so a Lapras lead. This is pretty decent for this team. Again, everything on the team does pretty neutrally against Lapras, but it's nice if the Steelix can avoid it, since those Surfs are going to be doing nice chunks of super effective damage. So they're going to stay in with the Clefable, go straight for the Psychic, which I don't know if they need to do that. Maybe they can just go for the Meteor Mash, but I'm pretty sure the Psychic would KO if they did let it go through, or get the Lapras very, very low. Again, they're going to go for the same tactic, where they're going to take the shield advantage and then bring in Umbreon and start grinding some extra energy up before they take this Lapras out. They're going to take an Ice Beam, and it's a CMP tie. That's pretty unfortunate, actually. They could have thrown another couple of Snarls before. Oh no, it doesn't even quite knock the Lapras out. Lapras is really bulky in Ultra League. They've got a damn, a Sylveon in the back, and that's pretty scary for this team since it's lined up against Umbreon. It's definitely going to hard shut down Umbreon. If you've ever played Umbreon, you know you don't want Charmers locked against it. But the Steelix is here. They've swapped into a Trevenant, and Trevenant is not as safe as it thinks it is. The Crunch hits for monstrous damage. They've still got a shield advantage here, so the Steelix might be able to put some serious work in this game. Crunch takes out the Trevenant, and now Steelix is going to go to work. The Dragon Tail is double resisted. The Crunch will be resisted, but that Earthquake is going to do big damage. I agree with this shield. It is definitely worth shielding up to get this Earthquake off, and then hopefully you can get some last resorts off from Umbreon and just chip this down. It's still going to be close because Sylveon is deceptively bulky as well. This is a pretty bulky team that the opponent's running, apart from Trevenant, obviously, but Trevenant's got decent bulk as well, although a lot of Pokemon have decent bulk in the Ultra League. It's able to survive the last resort. That is not good, but also they've got a shield. They can shield this move up. They've snuck the Snarl through. All they've got to do is get this foul play off. Sylveon, I don't think, can store 2 charge moves. Maybe it can store 2 Psy-Shocks. I'm not sure, but either way, they're going to take them out and take the win. GG. Now, I wasn't sure with these battles still being in the teen rankings whether or not these would be meta teams they'd be battling and how well the team would be performing against the strongest Pokemon Ultra League has to offer. What on earth is that? There's a Pyro. Good lord, that is... Now that is spice for the Ultra League. They're actually going to swap out into a Venusaur, and this is interesting. Venusaur's an interesting choice for the Open Ultra League for sure, but I can understand why it's there to cover the Pyro against any Swamperts or any Politoads that might be roaming around. And I think you could probably bring in Umbreon or Steelix into this Venusaur, but also the Dragon Tail is going to chip away nicely, and it means that the Steelix gets to stay away from the Pyro since it's a fire type and will be chipping away nicely with that Fire Fang damage. That's absolutely crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a Pyro in the Ultra League. I don't even know if that has to be XL or what. I've honestly never done anything with Pyro before. Now, Doom's choosing to actually lose switch advantage and go for the 1-to-1 shield. And they've got a Psychic already. This is going to do big damage if they let it through, I presume. I don't know how bulky Pyro is. I guess the shield anyway, so that's not too bad for them. Now, they've got Umbreon, and can Umbreon sweep with a 1 shield advantage? They're going to catch the foul play on Lapras. And Lapras is a bulky boy, just like Umbreon's a bulky boy. This is a Frost Breath Lapras. talking about whether or not teams are going to be running the hard meta lines or not, and I'm being surprised all over the place in this game. Pyro and Frost Breath Lapras. Now, the Sneaker Snarl through, when the Lapras throws, this is good. They're going to use a shield up a Surf, and I think I would do the same because I don't know what charge moves Pyro runs. In all fairness, I've never used it. And they're going to go for a Last Resort, and I think that might make the difference on KOing and not, because Last Resort hits for a couple of HP more damage than Foul Play does, and each one wasn't quite doing a quarter of Lapras's health that they were throwing earlier. They're going to catch on Clefable. It's a Flame Charge. It hits quite hard, and now those Fire Fangs are going to be really chipping away. They've got another Flame Charge ready. This is going to hit pretty hard. It's not quite enough to take them out. Now, this Last Resort has to KO. If it doesn't, it's over. They're going to lose to the... Oh, it's going to be... Can they snap? No, they don't quite get it. That's super close. One fast move worth of difference. Super close game. GG to both players there, and shout out for the Pyro Spice. That was deceptively strong against this team. Alright, next matchup, we've got another invisible Articuno. I guess Doom was having some game data issues on this set, and it is not allowing Articuno to render into the game, which is always kind of funny. As long as you can actually identify what you're battling against and how to deal with it still, it can be quite bad when they're switching into Pokemon that you can't see what they are and you've got to react fast. It can really throw you out when these sprites aren't showing properly, but when you can see it's Articuno at the start of the game, so at least you've got that few seconds to kind of adjust to what's about to happen. Now they go for the same strategy as in the previous matchup, letting Clefable go down and bringing in Steelix for the farm down. And this Articuno might be a little bit bulkier, it's hard to tell, but it looks like it has a little bit more health than the last one did. So it's still going for this Dragon Tail farm down, able to get it without taking another Icy Wind. Again, a Swampert in the back, ready to defend that Articuno against Steel types. That's quite a common team combination. Articuno lead with Swampert in the back was very common through most seasons of Go Battle League up to this point. But again, they've got a shield advantage, they've got a lot of energy on Steelix, sorry, and they're against Scizor. With this Umbreon, the foul players do massive damage, and Umbreon's tanky enough to take the bullet punches, and for some reason this Scizor's just going straight for the Night Slashers, which isn't pressuring any shields. Realistically, if this Scizor has it, it wants to be going for the X-Scissor, which is super effective to Umbreon and will be putting a lot more work in, unless they were just hoping for the buff and hoping that could carry them through. But either way, they're now in a pretty strong spot. They're going to let this Hydro Cannon go through, and this won't be enough to KO, but that's still quite a big ballsy call, because you really want this Umbreon to do the most of the work against this Swampert. They're going to swap into Steelix and go straight for this Earthquake, and now this Swampert's under a lot of pressure. They don't have shields. Oh, it does massive damage, and now this Steelix can just double shield and Dragon Tail down, surely. Now they're going to let it go, they're going to let the Steelix go, it doesn't actually knock it out, and the Steelix still farms down 2 shield flex on that opponent, even though they had Swampert against the Steelix. Steelix is too good, that Earthquake hits too hard, and Umbreon as well is a very versatile pick in the back, as long as they don't have a Charmer, but a Charmer's not going to be in the back with an Articuno lead because they'd be absolutely screwed against a Steel lead like Melmetal or Registeel. So they're able to take a 4-1, rank up to rank 16, and they're going to have a quick show off of their win rate in the season. They're looking pretty solid, actually. That's a very decent win rate at this point, though. Looking at their current rank, they've obviously waited a while to play some battles in this season. Now, another Articuno lead. I mean, I guess Articuno's a strong lead, a very classic lead for the Ultra League. I would have imagined it'd be a little less common now with Talonflames running around, but maybe that's one of the differences that being at a slightly lower rank at this point affords you, is that there are maybe just less Talonflames flying around than what I'm used to seeing in the Ultra League, or it could just be this player's luck on what they're running into, because I think a Talonflame lead will put some serious work in against this line, but if they're not running into them and you're not seeing them, then it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter if your team's weak to something if you're not seeing it. So they're going for the same play again, it seems, going for the Meteor Mash, getting the shield out of the Articuno, and then they're going to go for a Charm Down, force the Articuno to throw to take them out, and then see what they're going to do. Onyx once again going for this farm down, and if you guys didn't know how to play an Articuno lead, I guess you do now, because it hasn't failed for this trainer yet. Again, a Swampert in the back, and they swap to Umbreon, and they've got a Dragon Breath Giratina. Now this is still very good for Umbreon. It's not as good as if it was a Shadow Claw Giratina, in which case Umbreon would absolutely shut this down completely. But this Giratina is going to be able to put some work in with the Dragon Breath and Dragon Claws over time, and I'm unsure if Doom's going to go for a Snarl farm down after this foul play, assuming that it lands, or whether they're going to have to throw another one to take them out a little bit quicker and spare themselves some health to get a little bit more damage off on the Swampert. Let this Dragon Claw go through. They're going to keep throwing Snarls. They're going to swap to Steelix and go for the snipe down. The Giratina swaps out and preserves that last bit of health, but also I don't think it's going to do it much good against a Steelix and an Umbreon. And now the Swampert's in. They've thrown a Crunch and they're going to throw another Crunch. It's a shame they didn't go for that Earthquake for that big damage, but they have let both Crunchers through at this point. Now, they have an issue where Swampert gets energy very fast. The Umbreon's already loaded though. The Swampert's only got one shield. They've got nearly 2 foul plays. The biggest concern is if the Giratina catches a foul play. It looks like they're not going to be able to. This foul play should just take out the Swampert, I think. Yeah, it takes it out. And now the Giratina can't do anything. And another 2 shield win flex despite Steelix being stuck against Swampert. That is very impressive. GG again. I'm curious to see how strong this team would be if you had a full XL Clefable and a full XL Steelix. These are slightly XL because they're powered up just about level 41 or 42 each, I believe, since they are 100%, but you can get them up to level 50 with a low attack stat and high defense and HP. And a brilliant lead in this game. They had a Mandibuzz lead, which Clefable's absolutely going to shut down. They swap into a Jellicent, they bring in Umbreon, and the opponent surrenders, absolutely shutting down that player that I believe was a legend rank from last season as well. So they know they haven't got a chance in that game. They know it's lost, and we're going to go ahead straight into the next matchup. Right, and this opponent's got, it's what lead dreams are made of, another Giratina. And I tell you, this team just has such an advantage against any team that has Giratina on it because everything shuts it down so well. The opponent swaps out into a Swampert, and they're going to bring in their Umbreon. And I can justify this to myself. I see that this being fair. But Umbreon does very well against Swampert. It's not a hard counter by any means, but also Steelix. You don't want to bring Steelix into this thing unless you've got the energy advantage. You could have stayed in with Clefable, I suppose, and just gone for an aggressive Charm down and maybe committed a shield or something to it, and then lined up one of the other two with Giratina down the line. This Swampert is going to get a shield anyway. That Hydro Cannon spam is not to be underestimated. Umbreon builds up a little bit extra energy. That's good play, counting the moves the opponent has and knowing they've got the time to get those extra Snarls in before they get to another Hydro Cannon. The opponent shields to get one last Hydro Cannon off themselves. They want to keep Giratina away from the Clefable, and this Doom's going to choose to actually lose switch and bring in Steelix, and they know they're bringing in the Giratina because it certainly can't come in against the Clefable, and we're just going to have to hope that Clefable isn't going to get hard-walled in the back. With Giratina on the lead, there's a chance they're running a Steel type in the back for Charmers. They could be running Registeel, they could be running Melmetal, and this could be a big problem for this line. Now, the Steelix is already at another Crunch, and this is going to get the Giratina super low and knock it out. Actually knocks it out. What's the opponent got? It's an Abomasnow. So not a hard counter to Clefable by any means. This team doesn't have a hard answer for a Charmer, but just has 2 neutral pivots to work with to try and get Giratina away from a Charm lead. But this Steelix is going to put the work in. The Powder Snow's resist. They're going to swap to Clefable now. They've landed the Crunch. I believe they were going for that to try and get the defense drop to buff the Charm damage just before they swap out. They know they can survive one charge move, whatever it is, and they're just going to Charm down. It's going to be a good game. So, seeing that situation, it paid off. Giving up switch advantage, it didn't matter. But in some games, I would assume they have a Steel type in the back, and I would go down a shield to hold switch advantage. Here's the Nightmare lead, Talonflame. Now what can Doom do against it? They're going to swap out straight to Steelix, and the opponent does swap out, but it's to a Scrafty, which is, this is looking like might be a hard counter city line. It's nice to bait out a Scrafty because that would hard shut down Umbreon in the back, and it is very weak to Clefable. So I suppose the play here is you go for the Earthquake, go for big damage. I don't know how much it'll do. Scrafty's pretty bulky. There's no way it's going to one-shot, but it might get them pretty low. They do let it go through. It does a very respectable chunk. They're going to get farmed down before they can actually get to the Crunch. And now Clefable's going to come and get a very small farm, unfortunately. Maybe there's an argument to be made for not throwing a charge move at all on Steelix to get that energy advantage, to then have a Psychic to throw at the Talonflame. Talonflame's coming in and building up some energy. And are they going to let this go? They're going to let it go. It's just a flame charge. That's reasonable. And now they're going to build up one more and throw the Meteor Mash. Now, if the opponent's not counting, they might not know this is a Meteor Mash. They do shield, which is fantastic. So they've got the shield advantage. They're bringing in Umbreon. They should shield this. This will be a Brave Bird. It is a Brave Bird. Ah, a boosted Brave Bird. Monstrous damage to Umbreon. And that was almost certainly going to be the hardest hitting charge move left in the game, no matter what. That was definitely a misplay to not shield that. With Greedent in the back and on even shields, if they had a shielded the Brave Bird, I think there would have been a potential to win this game, because here Umbreon has to shield the Body Slam now. And it's just not worth it, because it's such a... Body Slam on Greedent is a very, very good move. You've seen my recent video on Greedent in the Great League, you know how good it can be, but you don't want to be shielding those Body Slams with an Umbreon. It's a really tough position to be in, and it's much more worthwhile to have spent it on a Brave Bird or even a Flame Charge. It wouldn't have mattered if it was a Flame Charge, it would still have been a shield well spent. In this situation, they got a little greedy, holding on to those shields, and Talonflame's just going to come in and finish off this game. So not quite able to take the win against the hard lead. I think there was potential though in that game. If Umbreon had have shielded the Talonflame, there would have been a chance, I do believe, just to grind through that. But Umbreon taking that much damage is very hard to recover from when you're already on the back foot. Speaking of nightmare leads, the last game here, and they've got a Melmetal lead. Melmetal, again, a staple of the Ultra League in its original iterations before XL Pokemon, came onto the scene. Now they swap out to Steelix, and I do agree with swapping to Steelix again, because you don't see it often and the opponent might panic and make a misplay, like bringing in a Dragon Breath Giratina. Now, the Melmetal realistically should have thrown at least one superpower, maybe two, before swapping out, but I can understand that they wanted to get it out quickly, preserve it, and hold it for the Clefable, but they're not going to be able to get switch advantage. So now Melmetal's going to be stuck against Umbreon, and that's a very good matchup for Umbreon, because the Melmetal has to go for superpower to do substantial damage, which is going to debuff itself and just put Umbreon in a much stronger position. Now, here's an interesting thing. Togekiss, it's a Charmer, and Steelix is a Steel type. So surely this is a brilliant matchup, right? But look how much Steelix is struggling to damage this Togekiss. Like, he's got the defense fall from the crunchers, and they're able to get, you know, decent chip damage with two, but the Togekiss is able to charm down, because running Earthquake, Crunch, and Dragon Tail, everything's resisted by Togekiss, which isn't something you'd expect, but kind of interesting. But now they've got Umbreon against the Melmetal. They call that it's a Rock Slide, and I believe I'd call this again. Yeah, call it. It's another Rock Slide, because the Melmetal's in a really tough position, where if they throw the superpowers early, then the foul play is going to hit much, much harder. They're much more pressured to shield. But I do think at this point, they might throw a superpower. That would make, if I was the Melmetal in this position, I would have to start throwing superpowers, because you're reaching the point where you can swap back out to Togekiss and clear your debuffs. So maybe this is a superpower. It is a superpower. They let it through. Big damage to Umbreon. The Togekiss swaps in to try and snipe down. They're not quite able to get it. This Clefable has a lot of energy. The Melmetal is not going to be able to Thunder Shock down. You've got two shields, Doom. You might as well use one, yeah. Shield up the superpower. I mean, maybe they were desperate to get rid of the Clefable before it got a charge move off, but either way, get off the Meteor Mash, take out the Melmetal, and they're going to take the win against a pretty tough lead there. But they didn't have a great answer for Steelix in the back. They could have swapped in Togekiss and realistically put a lot more work in than Giratina did, as crazy as that sounds. But other than that, well played to everyone in these games. So Doom's able to take a solid 2 4-1 sets there, despite having a couple of pretty bad leads and a lot of neutral leads, still coming out on top in those games. Fantastic team, fantastic gameplay. Thank you for sending those in and letting me showcase them on the channel. Shout out to you guys for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, consider liking, consider subscribing, sharing it around. Maybe you want to give the team a try. I might give Steelix a try myself, I think, after seeing this. If you're already subscribed, you're an absolute legend, and I will catch you guys next time.